We'll talk a little bit about the back where you're making triangles and things as well. To construct parallel lines, what you need to start with is you need to begin, and you can practice this by just drawing a segment and putting a dot out there. You'll start by creating a transversal. You can just use a ruler and draw in a transversal that I like mine to slant towards the right, and that's just because that's always how I do it. It doesn't have to go this direction. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, once you have your transversal, I'm going to copy the angle that's down here up here at this dot. Those would be corresponding angles, and if I know that those are congruent, then I know that my lines will be parallel. So I'm going to just use my compass and my straight edge. So my straight edge first step, draw your transversal, use your compass and copy the angle where I have the yellow dots. To copy an angle, you're going to put the end of your compass at the vertex of the angle, and then you're going to begin by, I'm going to change the color of this, you're going to begin by making an arc that goes all the way through your angle. So we're going to go all the way through the angle. We're going to keep the compass opening the same and bring it up here to where the dot is. And we're going to be making this arc so that it's sort of below the line. Make sure that it's big enough where it's at least as long of an opening as, down there at the bottom. Then you're going to take your compass and you're going to bring it to where it was intersecting the sides of the angle. And you're going to adjust the opening to the same measurement as they are where they touch the edges of the angle. So here you can see I'm measuring from where the arc is hitting the two sides of the angle. Then we're going to bring this up to the other arc, and basically we want to put this measurement onto this arc, which means that I need a mark over here. So I'm going to kind of spin this around, and I'm going to line up the tip of the compass where the intersection is between the arc that we made previously and the side of the angle there. And then I'm going to cross through, and you can see where these are crossing. This point right here, you will connect with the point that was already there. And there is a little bit of wiggle room because the size of the point on your paper gives you a little bit of space to kind of make sure that your ruler looks like it's going to be parallel to the other line before you actually draw in this particular line. But you're going to connect those two dots together in a way that should create some parallel lines. I kind of missed on that last part there. Let me fix that. Just lining up. There we go. And since if they want them to be lines, put the arrows on the ends of them so that you are constructing parallel lines. And we are going to mark them parallel by putting, an arrow sort of not really on the end there so that you can tell that these are parallel lines. Perpendicular lines, there's two types. There's one where the point they give you is not on the line, and then there's some that they give you where the point is on the line itself, and they're just a little bit different. So when the point is off of the line, what you're going to do is you're going to start by making an arc that goes through this line in two places. It's going to look kind of like a smile. And you're doing that because once you have that arc created, if you do the perpendicular bisector of it, then that will be lining up with this point, and it will be perpendicular. So I'm going to redo that. I wanted it a little bit farther apart. There we go. So you start with an arc that will intersect the line in two places. I'm just going to make sure we put a color there so we can talk about it. So I've changed these to orange where they're hitting the line. I'm going to do the perpendicular bisector from the orange dot to the orange dot, which will do the very center of this segment, and it will be perpendicular to it, and it will line up with this point. So we're going to do that now. We've already done the perpendicular bisector before, in this class, so you should hopefully remember how to do that. If I could work my mouse better. Here we go. Shrink that up. When you do a perpendicular bisector, you need to open your compass more than half of the length of the segment and less than the whole length of the segment. And then you'll sweep through. You can either have an arc above and below and then find where they cross, but I like to just make a really big arc. And then I bring my compass to the other intersection that the first arc made, that blue arc, and then we cross through. I always describe this looking like plankton from SpongeBob. If you're in my class, you'll remember me mentioning that probably. And so you want where the arcs, where the two orange arcs are crossing, you want to find where you can connect those with a straight edge, and it should also hit the point that was originally there. And then you need to be sure and mark that these are perpendicular lines, and so I'm going to add a right angle box there. I'm going to add arrows on the ends to make them lines. Sometimes they ask you to name them. You know, just read the instructions to make sure if you're supposed to have it be a certain name or anything like that. So here are perpendicular lines when the point is off of this segment or off of the line. Here is another type of perpendicular lines when the dot is on the line itself. So when you're doing this type, you start with the center of your compass on the line, and you need to create a piece of the line here, or piece of this segment, that is equal distance on each side of this dot. So I'm going to start again with an arc that will cut through the line twice. So the first step, it's kind of the same as the previous one, except for the center was on the line instead of how in the previous one it was above it. When we did that blue arc, it was above the line. So here it was on the line. Just open any opening really, as long as it's going to hit the line on each side of it, and it's equidistant. And we're going to do the perpendicular bisector from pink dot to pink dot, and that will go through this point, and it will be perpendicular to the line that was already here. So I'm putting my compass at the pink dot, and then I'm going to open it to more than halfway, so it'll be past the dot that was already there. And I'm going to swing through, kind of making like a half circle arc. Bring it to the other pink dot, and I'm going to swing it around. I'm going to do another little half circle going here. All right, and then if you connect the intersections of where those arcs are crossing, that should be perpendicular to the line and going through that dot. Yes, it is. Good. Sometimes I miss when I'm using this line tool. And then again, I'm going to mark the ends with arrows, and I'm going to mark the perpendicular marking in the middle there. Now, some of the ones on the back page of this, I'm going to clone this. There we go. On the back page, they gave you some segment links, and they want you to create a triangle with those segment links. The first step is just to create perpendicular lines. So I suggest, just put any kind of segment on your paper, do the perpendicular bisector of it, and you'll be looking at a picture similar to this one. And then after you've created those perpendicular lines, all you have to do is measure the sides that they want you to use. So I'm just going to put some segments on here and act like these are the side measurements they want me to use. So if these are the sides that I'm having to use to create this triangle, I'm going to bring my compass over here and I'm just going to measure the sides of it. And you could put this triangle in any of the corners. I mean, there's 4 right angles in your construction that you've already created, because each corner is a right angle. So you measure the first segment that they want you to use, you bring it over here. I'm going to use the first quadrant, and I'm going to put this on the horizontal line. So right here, kind of lines up with that arc that we already had. That is the distance for the first one. And it was a coincidence that it was the same length. And then the second one, which I'm going to put on the vertical line here, I'm going to go and measure it right now. Opening my compass to the same measurement. Let's see. There. Yours will be easier. Digital compasses are harder to work. Put the point of your compass there at the right angle. Swipe through the vertical line there, and you can see that this would be how long that side would be. And so then if I just connect these two dots with that right angle in the corner, then I've got a right triangle with these two side lengths that are here. And you know, if this triangle were isosceles, you would possibly measure if they told you the measurement, and then you would just swing through both sides of it. Or if they wanted you to make up your own length, you could pick your own compass opening and swing through both to make it isosceles. The other two, we want you to kind of think on how you're going to make those, because it's kind of like we show you one and then you do one. And there's only one of number 5 and number 6, so we want you to try those out on your own. But this kind of gives you the basics of it. So good luck on your constructions.